something way in advance or anything that happened recently, go ahead. We're happy to talk about that as well. Sheets, how you doing over there today?
Doing good, man. I escaped yesterday's ugly slate with kind of an unexpected run in this one of the single entry tournaments on FanDuel. Unexpected because I didn't have any fantasy points, but nobody else did either. So I was able to get my Colorado guys moving a little bit. My one off on Alex Dickerson went off with the baby narrative. Not that's why I played him, but certainly didn't hurt. And ended up coming in, I think, 7th or something like that in that. So that was good news. But aside from that, it was baseball's always a struggle. You always gotta, can't ever get that mad about baseball. You can get a little mad when your guys get injured, but I didn't have any of that yesterday.
That was a good job, man. You've been really coming up on baseball stuff lately a lot.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we're going to talk a little NBA and MLB. I'm going to try and share this. So you want to let's talk a little NBA first, and then we can always. Usually, people want us to revisit it. But okay. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready to talk about NBA. Sure.
All right. So quickly off the bat, what would be any strong takes while I quickly try and find a way to share this link so we can get some people in there.
On the actual game, boy, it's funny. I didn't even see the end of the last game until after it happened. You know what I mean? I saw Twitter kind of blow up, and then that was quite the result. I think that I'm sticking with my broom call here. I don't know. I think that LeBron and Davis just have too much.
I mean, in all fairness, it's not like they should have won the last game, probably.
No, I know that.
It wasn't. I don't know if a lot of people are I knew it would be 4 or 5, and I'm like, wow, that game really could have easily gone the other way, and this whole series might be way up in the air.
Absolutely.
I like Denver for what it's worth tonight. I like them to win. I like them to cover. I really think that they play their best game tonight, and I've been really impressed with what they've done. I think that when they have a sense of urgency, when their back's been against the wall, they literally haven't let down one time yet. And
excuse me, I would like to talk about something.
Okay.
So somebody came in yesterday and asked about our hockey opinion. And they said, who do you like in the Dallas Stars game? And we didn't even know what he was talking about. And then I said, well, what's the score in the series? And they said, well, it's 1-0. I'm like, I'm taking the other team. I don't care who they're playing, right? And you laughed, whatever. And I said, well, it's interesting, because in series like this, it just used to be the case that, you have a long series like this, the team wins the first game. They just naturally just get a little overconfident. The second, the underdog has a decent chance to cover in the second game. And they ended up, I actually chirped a little early. They were up 3-0 when I said, oh, look at that. They ended up holding on 3-2, the underdog. I bring it up only because, we didn't talk about this, but the exact same thing happened in this NBA series, right? So the Lakers just waxed them in game 1, got a little overconfident, and Denver totally covered easily in game 2. So this type of thing, the way human emotion kind of works, is just kind of spans across all sports like that.
Yeah, I agree.
So with that said, I really don't have an opinion on the game today.
Yeah, all right. Well, I'll take the Denver side of it.
Okay.
And overall, it's maybe I'm reaching a little bit. I just think what we've seen so far, Denver with their back against the wall has been really good. The Lakers, Anthony Davis has been unbelievable from a DFS perspective. By the way, you guys can join BetQL with the promo code BobbyFi. If you do that, just do it for 20% off, and you want to get some of these NBA picks as well as the NFL picks. The season's about to end for NBA and MLB. NFL's just getting going. It's time to join if you haven't already. Just real quick, wanted to throw that out there. But from skipping the straight betting side of it, the players that stand out to me the most. All right, I'm trying to figure out the ownerships here of where I'm gonna go.
So let me start, okay? Because I'm gonna build a showdown lineup kind of on the fly, right? And I'm gonna do the exact same thing I did last time. I had this opinion on the game, so I'm gonna pretend I have the opinion that the Lakers blow them out again, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing that I did last time, and it's not gonna be as wacky because it's a little different now. But I'm gonna start with kind of blowout run guys. So I'm going to play Dwight Howard. I'm going to play the guy who literally hadn't played a minute before I picked him. That was PJ Dozier. And he's gotten in some games, and he's only 1,400 in the showdown slate. And I'm going to play the other guy. I played at the captain in that scenario, which was Michael Porter Jr. So let's see what that looks like. So if I play Michael Porter Jr. at the captain, and then I have Howard and Dozier, I could probably, just for the hell of it, jam in all three studs, right? I could probably go LeBron, LeBron Davis and Jokic. You know what? Almost. You know what I could do? I could play Jamal Murray, though, and not play Jokic, and then I have zero salary left, which is probably not the best idea in the world. But I kind of like Porter, man. I like Porter as kind of a play anyway in DFS because we always like him, and he could be in the game in the blowout if he needs to be, or if he wants to be, I guess, or that's the way it works out. So I kind of like him, man. I like the Michael Porter Jr. is kind of like the core of how I'm going to start my DFS lineups, whether it be showdown or 2-game slate.
Yeah, there's two guys from just a strictly forget game theory, forget every stat, just knowing basketball that could flip this game a little bit in terms of DFS. And one of them is Michael Porter, who's not going to be completely unowned by any means, but is not going to be as crazy high owned as you might think, and could certainly explode. The other guy, I don't think anyone's going to play, or at least I don't think a ton of people are going to play him, is Kuzma with what we've seen lately. And I expect a big Kuzma game basically in any game flow type situation at some point in this series. And tonight seems like as good a time as any. He might get a little extra run. It's not exactly desperation mode for the Lakers to keep all their old guys on the court. He's sort of been played out a little bit with Rondo out there to some extent. But I think he's off the board on a 2-game slate is a big, strong thing to say. But those are the guys. I prefer Davis over LeBron, but I like both of them. And then Jokic is probably the guy I would use as my captain for the most part. But those other guys I'm mixing in, and I'm trying to figure out what to do with PJ Dozier. I think that's the guy who I might take another hunch chance on. Like, he played really well in the last game in real life. He just missed some free throws. They looked good when they came back with him specifically on the court. So I can get behind it. And by the way, he has played in both games in the series, 12 and 14 minutes. Like, this is not like, a guy who's totally off the board. He's projected for 4. So we can just take the past performances, not to mention that one time it was leading a comeback, he was on the court. So at 1.4K, I think he's the guy who spends down. He was in my first build, and I don't think the ownership's going to be too high on him. So I think we can get behind that play as a speculative play. The obvious middle-tier guys are so obvious and so much better plays than him. But you want to play them together. So I think that would be Caruso, Danny Green, and KCP in that order. Maybe you could argue KCP over Danny Green. It's really close. I would say KCP, Caruso, Danny Green, then KCP. But it's really close with all three of those guys. And you play those guys with Dozier, and you play 2 of the studs. Basically, that's what you can. If one of them in the captain spot, that's the route I'm thinking of going in my big buy-in lineups. And the other ones, I think you want exposure to Dwight Howard. I think you want some exposure to. He's not going to be low owned, but excuse me, why isn't his name on here? JaVale McGee. I think JaVale McGee, I thought he was going to be higher owned. He might actually be a better play than we're giving him credit for here. You could see a minutes uptick for either him or Howard or both from that 12 that he played in the last game. I think you could see, and he's a guy who can give you some production. You got a bigger team in Denver. They can always throw different things out there. Mostly they don't play with the 2 bigs like with Plumlee and Jokic as much anymore, except for defensive subs. But if they do, for any reason, JaVale McGee or Dwight Howard should be on the court for a little bit more time.
Now, you mentioned again, I think I know what you meant, but when you said that I like Kuzma in like a game flow situation, like what do you mean by that?
I said I don't care the game flow. Like, I could see it in a blowout. I could see it on either side of a blowout. I could see it in a close game. Less likely in a close game, but still it's very possible. Like, he can get going. He just hasn't gotten going recently, and I feel like he's getting sort of forgotten about because of it. And I think Michael Porter is the better example of those two. You know what I mean? Michael Porter, with Kuzma, we know he's going to play around 20, 24 minutes. With Michael Porter Jr., he might play like 30 minutes out of the blue. Like, it's possible. Also,
you know what I did? I mean, like, I mentioned it because the stupid one little lineup I'm playing with Porter in the captain and then Dwight Howard in the utility. What I did is I flipped it around a little bit. I put Kuzma in the captain, dropped Porter to the utility, and tossed Howard. And that's a similar idea, and that actually is a little better because it leaves 200 on the table.
Right.
That's not. This could be fun.
Yeah, the guy who seems a little bit overpriced on even this little slate is Paul Millsap, and people aren't going to get him in. I just
Okay.
want to say that he's trending in the right direction. He looks a lot better on the court. His minutes have sort of ticked up a little bit. Like you saw in the Game 7 against the Clippers, he played his high of minutes in the series. He had 2 games against the Clippers, he played over 30. He played 28 in the last game against the Lakers when they made their comeback. I think that they might rely on him. And while he didn't put up great numbers, you know what I mean, he was still, a couple points and a couple rebounds away from a double-double, which, would put him in the 25 to 30 category. He's another one of the guys just to mix in. But one guy who's weird is I don't think people are going to play Jeremy Grant for the first time like in the whole thing. And there's only one game, and he's the one where he had the most secure minutes of anybody for a long time.
Yep.
Now that's really not the case with Jeremy Grant. And by the way, same thing with Gary Harris, who actually is secure for minutes, but they sort of played him out in the last game. But Jeremy Grant, I would put Gary Harris probably has like more upside as a play, but Jeremy Grant, I do think that there's a good chance he ends up out there for 30 mid-30s minutes. And anybody who's playing that many minutes, not getting ownership, I have to at least mention, even though I mentioned liking the other forwards, he's like the guy who actually is safer, but is going to be owned more like a tournament play.
Yeah, when I hand built, I played this 2-game slate. And the guy who actually played in my hand build lineup was actually Gary Harris. And I will tell you that it's probably
I don't know what the prices are on the 2-game slate or anything about it.
Right. I will tell you that I wanted to say that I think this is the first time I played Gary Harris in I want to say 2 years. I mean, like I just never play him, and for whatever reason, he just kind of fit some of my lineups. So I have like kind of a decent amount of him. He is on a 2-game slate. I will give you the price. He's 4,500.
Okay, so he's 45 on the 2-gamer. Yeah, I think that's too cheap. He's a lot more expensive on the single gamer, but yeah, he's a good play anyway. Like that's a great. He makes a lot of sense. But yes, his favorites. I do like the idea of going with one of the Dozier, JaVale, low owned, or you use the other side of the low ownership and you play Jeremy Grant, who I can't believe is going to be as low owned as he's projected right now, but I think he might be a little bit overlooked. And Gary Harris is the other of the low owned guys. I'm still prioritizing Davis over LeBron. The way I want to build tonight is try to get one of those guys in the captain spot. And I think, to be honest, I'm just going to have Jokic in the captain spot and just sort of call it a day. And then play one of Davis or AD mostly, but occasionally I'll have a couple of them together. But Davis is the priority over LeBron.
Okay.
All right. Let's take a look at anything else from this. I mean, like, do we miss on anybody? I felt like I sort of touched on pretty much everybody who I'm even considering. Guys, if there's any questions about it, just throw them out. What's up, Joe Pagliarulo? I think I got it right this time. I finally got the last name pronounced correctly.
Was he my hockey guy from yesterday?
No, that was somebody else. But no, Joe just hangs around with us sometimes. But yeah, guys, throw out QQs anytime. Please give us the like, subscribe, all that stuff, and we'll move on to baseball. All right, Sheets. It's an interesting baseball slate. We did a little video on it. What are we sort of starting the people with? Then we'll go position by position.
We're starting people with Valdez. And what you want to do after that is either spend up for Blake Snell, who certainly has risk, or pick one of these middling guys. And Lugo is probably going to be the most I guess the highest owned. But there are other ways you could go. Like you can go the not Bubic. I keep getting them confused. The guy from the Royals. Whatever his name is. I'll pull it up in a second. What's his name?
Singer.
Right, Singer. Sorry, Singer. And then if you really wanted to get off the board, Bobby brought up some other cheap guy you could play, or again want to pivot off of those guys at a really low owned kind of scary spot. You could play Griffin Canning.
I mean, I just want to point out that the early projections for Brady Singer are that he's going to be completely unowned.
I don't know.
Nobody playing him. Like everybody. Okay. Well, Lugo, I do think is going to be the popular one.
Okay.
And I actually don't mind Lugo. I just prefer these other guys. I'd mind him less than I normally would. I think Smiley's a mistake. The guy's pitched 5 innings this season, and he's going to get ownership. I think Taylor Clark, sure, you can argue for anybody against Texas, but I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to play Quintana in a bad who knows how many pitches he's going to throw and a bad pitching environment. Great hitters umpire.
You could play that cheap Oriole guy as a GPP play. I mean, I'm attacking him, but I mean,
I don't want to get into too many pitchers after if the ownership stays similar to this, it's basically Valdez, Snell, Singer, Skubal, and Lugo. I don't think I won't touch anybody else.
Okay.
Because it's just that's just there's too much upside for some of these guys. I don't understand the Brady Singer thing. What am I missing, Sheets? And maybe it's just an early projection thing, but I don't understand how no one's going to play this guy.
I told you he's not popping in any of the projection models.
People aren't that dumb though. By the end of the day, they always figure it out and they change the projections or something.
No.
But even Seth Lugo's not and neither is Framber Valdez. By the way, he's
Lugo is showing up. I'm telling you,
Valdez is showing up. Here's what their projections are. The things I'm looking at: 10 points for Lugo for Valdez for Framber Valdez. That's why
that was a mistake. So
Blake Snell is 16. Okay, that makes some sense a little bit. But why then is so Quintana is the second highest projected scoring pitcher on the slate. Griffin Canning is third, I believe. No, fourth. Frankie Montas is third. I mean, these projections are just throw them out the window completely. They mean absolutely nothing.
Lugo's going to be really, it's my opinion. You know what I mean? I just have no interest. I mean, I think Tampa's a good team. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, and Singer, I know what I saw. I mean, I think he's really, really good, and I would just prefer him over Lugo. Even honestly, even similar ownership. So if I'm getting a discount, I'll try it.
Yeah, based on that, I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's so weird. I don't know. Okay. Wait, really? I thought Singer would be high owned because of his last two games. John Diaz, I mean, as of the early ownership, I think people will catch on a little bit later on and he'll end up medium owned, but I don't think it's going to be that high. Okay. Their projections are crazy. Let me say, they're just awful. If you're losing pitcher projections in 2020, I've never seen anything. They've not only have they not been right this year, they've never been close on anybody. On any single pitcher, they have not been close to right. There's not one pitcher that's accurately at all projected, like not even close. Blake Snell is the closest thing I've seen like in a while. I just really think that they make up. They're always wrong. So that's my personal take. Maybe some other look. I would use two sites mostly, but maybe if I take a look at some other sites and I use my own stuff, but my own stuff incorporates other sites, and they just have been wrong all year for me. All right, Chiefs. So with all that, we talked about the guys. Is there anybody else you didn't mention? I think the Canning thing is sharp. And maybe unnecessary because I kind of like the other guys better, but I do think Cannon could easily outperform those guys. But I just prefer taking a shot with the other two. And Skubal, by the way, has already pitched well against the Minnesota team. I don't like it's the third time. I do like Minnesota stack, but I think there's another route to this where Minnesota's really struggled with lefties lately. So I would take that shot. All right, should we talk about positions?
We're gonna do it by positions. Okay.
For this show, I think that's a good habit. The other way we do it by.
Very good. Now, how are we going to do this? We're going to do this by so we're going to alphabetize. All right. But you're going to go beyond my alphabetize. So we're going to start at catcher, right? Okay.
Well, and that's just the normal way to start. It's
beautiful. That's fine.
Okay.
All right. So catcher. Carson Kelly is playing. Nah, I don't want him. Boy, catcher really stinks. Is Victor Caratini? Well, there's the Cubs, right? So Contreras or Caratini, whoever gets the start, I guess, is going to be probably my favorite catcher.
Mm-hmm. I think those are the cash game guys who make sense. I actually think that you could argue that Chance Sisco, if he's in the middle of the order tonight, would be the other cash guy. He's my guy.
The other one I can tell you is guy I don't know if I've ever actually made money with him, but I always find a way to play him. Is I'm probably going to maybe pay up for Christian Vasquez in my Red Sox stacks. So I will try him, and then especially on FanDuel, but also on DraftKings. Mitch Garver is also pretty good.
Yeah, the chalk is going to be Vasquez, Contreras, and d'Arnaud, and I think Garver and Cisco will be next. All of those players I like. Other than those. The one guy, I like Dalton Varsho as a part of my Arizona stacks, and I like Jacob Stallings on his own, batting fifth for the against Quintana. I really like him. He's 2.7, and I think he's going to be low owned. So that's what I would do. It's weird because everybody's paying mid-tier for catcher today, So I think I might pivot a little bit and pay down when they're not.
Yep.
And we've got some decent options. I mean, Stallings is batting fifth, and potentially Cisco batting fourth. That would be definitely enticing to me.
Stallings is good.
Yeah, I like him too.
Yep.
And also got the platoon split. All right, first base. I think that the chalk is going to be Freeman and Christian Walker, right?
Definitely Christian Walker.
I think Freddie Freeman is going to be pretty popular.
More than.
Yep.
I was gonna say Rizzo, but
Rizzo is not going to be that popular lefty-lefty, which I think makes him a great play.
Okay. The other guys I like. We'll go back to this game from other spots, but Nunez from Baltimore, and those are my main ones actually.
Yeah, I like Hosmer as a guy off of Freeman. I love Freeman. I think Freeman is going to hit a home run today. I really feel strong about that one.
Okay.
I love Freeman. I don't mind the Dodger guys. I prefer, I guess, a little bit. Both Muncy and Bellinger have sucked lately, so I guess I'd give a little bit of the edge to Bellinger. But you can use those guys certainly. You don't need to get different in every position. Freeman is a guy who I'm probably going to eat a little bit of chalk with, which is kind of weird because there's other plays. I think Rizzo's a good low-owned left spot in lefty-lefty. I'll use Miguel Sano in my twin stacks.
Yep.
And other than that, I don't really have like a one-off that I'm in love with. I mean, Aguilar makes some sense. You know what I mean? If you're going to play a little two-man or even on his own from the Miami side. Jared Walsh is the greatest hitter in baseball, but is going to be unowned. But mostly it's the guys I mentioned. I think that it's going to be guys in my stacks. Muncy, Bellinger, Sano, and my main just plug-in is going to be Freddie Freeman. And I understand that in general you don't want to play someone that heavy chalk, but I like Freeman just significantly better than everyone else. Christian Walker is going to be really popular, but I like the Texas team, but I don't find myself with as much Walker specifically today.
Oh, God, I got to deal with second base. Okay, so I will tell you my favorite play at second base. My favorite play at second base is Nick Solak from Texas. Probably the chalky best play of the projection wise at second base might be again is Jose Altuve, and considering he never gets the ball out of the infield, that's kind of an interesting thing to think about. He actually had a broken bat single, I think, yesterday. I think that's possible. The other guy is, I don't know if he's going to get in the lineup, but again, go back to the Cubs, I guess, it's Nico Herner. I don't think he got in the lineup yesterday. I was going to play him yesterday. So maybe he gets in today. For Cubs stacks, you can use him. So those would be my guys. Solak, he's outfield eligible too, but he's also second base eligible. And then, also back to more Texas. Maybe I'm just like biased. My numbers are biased with Texas guys every day. But Odor also, if he gets in the lineup also.
Yeah, I have no problem with that. I don't mind if you – this is the first night I've said this because this is the most I've liked Arizona. But I might play Rojas or Van Meter in my Arizona stacks, and they're going to be popular, so I don't feel great about it. I love Solak. I think it's a great call. I think Solak and Bodie are my favorite, and they're the same price. Those are the two guys who really stand out. Other than that, it's the obvious Altuve or Odor. Just like you said, I mean, I don't really love any of these guys, to be honest with you. So see how it suits you best. If there's one best play that I expect to outscore everyone here, it's Albies, and I don't mind using Albies as a part of Atlanta stack. And even separately, I mean, honestly, at this point, this is not that strong a position. He's more of a sure thing for points, and maybe spending up and doing a different build for like one of the low-owned Braves is going to be a really cool way to go. So I'm sort of liking the Albies idea. I think I might actually note that one again. Get a little Albies. And by the way, it's kind of a must-win game for Atlanta. You might see a little bit more. All that means to me, Sheets, in baseball, by the way, is if there's a team that runs a lot, I think they're going to run even more in those situations. And Albies and Acuna run a lot. So I'm throwing that out there. We got a few other questions in chat here. Let's see. He's in for the Cubs. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be in on the Cubs today with the prices. I'm not as in on the Cubs as Sheets is, but I certainly understand it. It's a good hitting environment. Peralta, will remind everybody, has given up only 2 or 3 home runs, I think, all year long, and it's done a pretty good job limiting damage, but it is good hitting conditions and a great hitter's umpire. So I actually, I understand it. I just like other spots better. Any interest in your Marlins tonight? Sorry. No, the Marlins are Corey Dickerson and first baseman. Why can't I think of his name off the top of my head right now? Too many names. Aguilar. Those guys stand out the most. Depending on how the lineup breaks out, I got to take another look at it. But I definitely like them as like a mini stack, but I don't think I'd fully stack them. All right, Cheeks, what were you going to say?
No, I mean, what's interesting about the Cubs is I'm going through this. And, like, for example, at first base, the Cubs in and of themselves seem like they'd be, like, owned. But, like, if you go through these positions, like, they're better plays, you know what I mean? Like, at each position, maybe they'll end up being, like, ignored. So, like, Christian Walker in the Arizona, lead a lot of people to Arizona stuff. That and like you said, if you think Freeman's going to get ownership as well, maybe someone like Rizzo, like you said, is not going to be as popular as whatever. And as we get to like third base, for example, I mean, I presume that Escobar is going to be, one of the higher owned plays. No, I mean, oh no,
I don't think so. I think it's going to be Donaldson by a good amount. And some people will play the Van Meter thing over. I mean, some people you could do that as a spend down. Then I think people are going to play Bregman, and then I think Escobar is probably going to be like 6th or 7th, I think, on the list, or maybe 5th.
Well, that's what I was getting at. Also, is that we didn't even get to Chris Bryant, right? So Chris Bryant is probably not one of the quote unquote best plays necessarily.
I don't think Chris Bryant's playing. Do you?
Oh, well, I don't know.
I don't. I'd be surprised. I didn't see anything that had him projected as in. I think he's hurt.
Okay. I mean, I had him project. I have projections. You know what I mean? So I don't have.
Huh. I mean, it's possible he's in the lineup. I've heard. I would be shocked. I mean, there's no way Cameron Maybin, Nico Horner, and him will be in the lineup. I'll tell you that.
Wait, he's actually out of the lineup. He's actually out of the lineup.
It just doesn't make any sense that he would be. Yeah. All right.
So let me get the lineup here. So it's going to be Happ. Baez is hitting 4th, not 7th.
Oh wow, yeah.
Horner get in. Contreras is hitting 2nd. He's like a lock, right? I mean, you know what I mean. He's not like a lock, but
yeah.
Horner gets in, batting 9th. Schwarber hitting 5th. Okay, and then your Bodie gets to 6th, which is pretty good. And Cameron Maybin is in at 2,300, hitting 7th.
Pass.
Yeah. Okay. So
James is asking about pitchers out there. Real quick, I'm just gonna say our pitchers, the ones that I liked, and if there's anybody you like that I'm not using. Valdez number 1, followed by some combination of Singer, Lugo, Snell, and Scooball. That's where I'm at.
Yep. And the only kind of like who I'll throw in is maybe Griffin Canning.
All right, Griffin Canning's the other one. Yeah. All right, you ready to keep going? Well, I guess we keep talking about third. You said the Bryant thing, so forget Bryant. Who are we looking at now?
Yeah, so I was just kind of like into the chalk then at that point. I was into the guys that you mentioned. I was into Escobar and Donaldson and Bregman. And the other one I will again, and you don't like to play this guy. You think he's like kind of overrated or whatever, but he's really expensive, so he's going to be low owned probably. Is Rafael Devers?
I mean, sure. Here's the issue. Like, here's the other same guy who's going to be low owned. A much better. What if I told you that you're going to get the same ownership on Manny Machado? Like, I just think it's not even close. Like, I don't know. I mean, I can't see. I get the idea behind Devers and the Boston thing, and even with the winds blowing and the 20 miles an hour and all that stuff. I'm not doing it, but I honestly just think like the reason to play Devers at 5.4 is because you either love the spot for Boston or you're using him as a pivot off of these other guys. And to get low ownership on Machado, I mean, I would just 100% out of 100 times, I would take Machado and Rendon over him, but especially Machado.
Okay.
So Machado is like my huge play now, apparently, because nobody seems to be playing him at this price. He's absolutely tearing the cover off the ball. He's got a shot at the MVP. He's been the best player for the Padres. Yes, he's been the best player for the Padres since the first 2 weeks of the season, and Tatis was going nuts. So he's my big spend up if I'm going to use it. I like Escobar as a spend down. I like Donaldson a lot. I'm leaving the Bregman. I think I mostly am on the fading most of Houston train. I'm going to have some Springer and maybe even some Altuve because the way things work out. but I really don't want to stack this team and just get my heart broken and all my money taken again. So Bregman makes sense, but at some ownership, I can fade it and play the Dodger guys as well as the guys I just mentioned. Oh, Franco's a good idea too. John Diaz just asked about what about Franco. I like Franco. I forgot Hunter Dozier at first base also. Both those guys make some sense in a little mini KC stack. I don't think I'd go full KC, but mini KC I do like. There, I just answered the question, so hopefully it'll catch up. All right, Sheets, you ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right, shortstop. What do you got?
Yeah, same story. So I'm about to say that you could spend up for Bogarts at 5,400, and then you're going to say, well, why not just find the 300 for Tatis, which makes a lot of sense.
Or the 100 for Seager.
Or the 100 for Seager, or
the 100 for Baez.
Or the 200 for Story. I mean, whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys in there.
Yeah, so there are a lot of good plays. If you want to spend down a little bit, here we go. You can go back. You can go back to Texas, and the Tejeda's not bad. For whatever reason, Will Castro is showing up as a good play. I'm just not getting to any of that. But
I don't mind the Tigers in general tonight, by the way. But I don't. I would say Castro and Goodrum are the only ones I want to play, and they're shortstops.
Okay.
So it's kind of weird, but
Goodrum not outfield eligible? No, he's not, right?
No, he might even be, but I don't want to use him in my outfield spots. I don't like it that much. But I think this is a spot where you're spending up, and if you're spending down, you're playing Rojas or Castro. I don't think it's that there's all that many other spend down options. I did find somebody earlier. Oh, Goodrum. That's it. That's all pretty much it. I think mostly spending up at shortstop and paying down in the outfield.
This is an interesting thing. A projection just updated, which leads me to believe that Sino is playing, which might mean the Cisco is not playing.
Okay, well, that would change things for Baltimore then. I have my little mini Baltimore stacks. Just real quick, if you're looking for a direct pivot off of Cisco, I don't think he was a catcher you needed to have. It was an option of paying down. So if he's not in the lineup, I would rather probably just pay up for the other guys, the Contreras, Darno, Vasquez. But I actually think that the closest thing to a pivot that I do like, and you can use him as a sort of a different part of Arizona, is Stephen Vogt. And then I already mentioned the Dalton Varsho, who's exactly 200 cheaper. So those are the guys who you look at as immediate pivots off of Cisco.
Okay.
All right. So outfield, which is really going to be something today. What do you got for me?
Well, there's honestly, there's a lot of cheap value up at up there, like Soler, DJ Stewart, Hayes, Mullins, and then you may as well throw Cameron Maybin in that crew, right? At 2,300. So there's a lot of that. But the best play is JD Martinez. He's going to be, I imagine, pretty chalky. But for me, he's just the best play on both sides. It's righty versus lefty, and the guy, he has some strikeouts. So JD can certainly strike out. To me, he's just the best play. You want to pivot off him? Let's Joey Gallo again, maybe, and
Joey Gallo. You ain't fooling anybody tonight with Joey Gallo, buddy.
Oh no,
I think you're actually going to have some ownership, which is great. That's not great, but it does prove that your early call on it was a good play. I think it's a good play.
But maybe actually the best play, and who do you think is the best play, JD Martinez or George Springer?
I don't think anybody's even close to Springer right now, personally. I know he might be banged up. I'm hoping that, or they're worried about whatever they're talking about. I think it's just nonsense, personally. I like Springer. My favorite outfield play, though, there's nobody close to Soler. And because of the way that it shakes out, I don't think he's going to have I think maybe he reaches barely double digits ownership. And I love that. I'm absolutely in love with paying down in these outfield spots. I think there's enough power. You can play Solak in the outfield also because even though I hated second base at first, when we started talking about Bodie bat sixth and then Albies in there, and then I even if you did do a Houston stack, which I'm still going to have just one of, you could throw in Altuve, and there's just the Arizona guys. But there's enough out there to where maybe you could argue for playing one of those guys in the outfield. But the main guy, I like the Baltimore guys, Mullins and DJ Stewart and Soler. I don't mind all three of those in the same outfield. I know you're losing something, but I do think Springer is the number one guy you would try to get in. That's it for me. I think the Cole in your Arizona stacks, Mookie Betts in your Dodger stacks, Acuna or Ozuna. I actually like both of them a ton. The Adam Duvall in Brave stacks. Mostly it's a stack related thing, but I really like these cheap guys. The Mullins, Soler, DJ Stewart, Nick Solak. Again, you could use out here. I don't mind Kyle Tucker. He's the only other Astro that I, in general, have been playing. And then you've got the twins, Nelson Cruz and Byron Buxton, and who just ship us all the money.
Now, first of all, these ownership projections are beyond ridiculous. But I will tell you that the Orioles outfielders, the cheap outfielders, are hitting 1, 2, 3 today. Actually, no, that's not true. Mullins is hitting 1. Moncastle is hitting 3. Hayes is hitting 2. And then the other guy I like next is Nunez is hitting 4.
Where's DJ Stewart? He's out?
DJ Stewart is hitting 5. I mean, like, this is ridiculous. I mean,
I want to say anything about Pivetta. Like, he's one of the – I've actually won a ton of money with this guy as a pitcher in the past. Like, I don't know. I don't think he's going to pitch that much tonight.
Yeah, what about everybody else? Right, exactly.
So, yeah, exactly. So I don't think he's going to pitch that much. I just want to point out that he's been historically really good against righties and really bad against lefties. Really bad. That's why he's an easy guy to play in DFS, because if he gets a right-handed heavy team, he's been great. But now it's like I just think that all these guys make a lot of sense.
So Mullins is the only one that could bat from the left side of that group, right?
No, DJ Stewart's a lefty.
Stewart. Okay.
And yeah, I mean,
Cisco is in fact out. You could even play. I don't know if I want to play Ruiz.
It's not the worst play. I don't mind Ruiz. Like that whole team, I don't mind. Like, but I think I'd probably keep it to 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah,
that's probably where I would end up. And I don't like that Cisco's out. I wanted to get the lefty against Pivetta. That was part of my thinking. But you ready to do some stacks? Yeah.
So, in looking at this again, I'm going to look at this one more time after. Well, I'm just going to look at it a bunch more times, but after the lineups come out, I'm back to my original guys. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 teams. I mean, Baltimore, Zona. And then the kind of not chalker, but like the good guys like Houston, Chicago, and Boston. And then I'm going to play the Texas. I'm going to play the Gallo, Solak, Taveras, Odor, Tejeda. Presume they all get in. That'll be the low owned of the bunch. That's for sure.
I don't think Texas is going to be that low owned, but
who's everybody going to play? You can't play everybody, right?
That's the team that they're going to play. That's one of the teams, I think. But I don't think it's going to be like crazy. I think it's fine. It's just, I think Gallo will be 15% owned. I think that Michael will be 15% owned or somewhere in that range. I don't know. So maybe 10% or something. And they're not going to be crazy. Don't worry. It's not like I'm not saying to talk you off of it. My favorite stack is I like the Braves and Twins a lot. Even though I have some interest in another pitcher. I'm starting to come on to the Padres just because I like you can stack the infield and I like what you can do with the outfield. And they have the most power of every team. And I can also say the same thing about the Dodgers. So I think stacking, using the cheap outfield value and maybe even using it as a correlated mini stack, maybe with your catcher or something, and then using like the first base through shortstop of the Dodgers or the Padres is a good way to go in tournaments. And it's going to be low owned. And you could do that even while paying up at pitcher for both spots. So I like that. But the main ones that stand out, but more likely it's going to be a Minnesota Braves are my most interest for full stacks. But I like mini Baltimore. I like the four-mans of the Dodgers and Padres especially, and I like Arizona.
Scared me a little bit. So here are the things that have scared me a little bit today. So the thing you mentioned about Pivetta not being that bad against righties, or being good against righties, I guess, scares me a little bit.
Who knows if he's going to pitch more?
And just still, I know, but it still scares me a little bit off the Baltimores. And then the worry about how many innings they might let Snell pitch concerns me a little bit. But you know,
the logic though behind it though is they should theoretically want Snell to throw at least 75 to 85 pitches because the whole point is you don't want your pitchers tightened for the thing, you want them stretched out. So then you could actually make an argument that maybe he even throws, like he could be even getting lit up and he might still throw 80 pitches. Like, you know what I mean?
Is that what you want? I mean, like you want like.
No, but he always runs that risk anyway. Like the way they treat him in general, like that's sort of the same pitcher that he is, and it's sort of baked into everything about him. Like
maybe we just
more than 6. The guy hasn't pitched 6 innings this entire season. So I think using Snell on on FanDuel is a mistake. I'm just going to say, I think it's a mistake. I don't care what the results end up being. And he ends up, if he has a no-hitter going through 5, he's going to keep going. Like, it's not like he's going to stop him. They're not going to stop him, but they might stop him after 7.
Well, how many points do you get for a quality start? 3?
4 or 6. I can't remember. Whatever it is.
Not to say, is that enough to be scared? I guess it is.
Well, why? No, but forget that. Why would you want to spend that much on a pitcher who can't pitch 6 innings?
Right.
With actual points. It's just, what the hell? I'm going to pay this back price for a guy who hasn't thrown 6 innings in a game this year? It seems crazy. You have to have like a 2-to-1 strikeout rate for that to even make sense.
Yeah, that's a good point.
John asked if I'm using Acuna and Ozuna together. The answer is mostly no. I'd like to.
How can you afford that, right?
You can afford to do it, but my point is the value in the outfield is better than the value anywhere else. So why not take that value? You're going to miss out on some home runs from guys like Ozuna and Acuna or Cruz or whatever. But why not take those nice value plays and mix? There's literally 15 you could choose from that are all at like 3,200 and under, or 3,400 and under, and do that, and then stack the other power teams like the Padres infield or the Dodgers infield or the Braves infield or the Twins. You could actually use their infield today, even the Arizona infield. So the problem with Arizona is you more likely want the outfielders. So I think that I'm more likely to play Arizona on FanDuel than I'm going to be on DraftKings. The more I look at it,
I'll tell you, it's really interesting. I mean, we talked about this like beginning of the season with respect to Cleveland, and it's interesting, those types of, I don't want to say unique constructions, but unique setups where on the one hand you have the teams with the power infield on the same slate where you have the teams with the value outfield, and I always think about that when you think about Lindor and Ramirez, right, for Cleveland, right? They're good slates to play them if you can get the value coming from the outfield. And when you're dealing with the Padres, when you have Tatis and Machado being the main, and is the first baseman also?
Moreland or Hosmer.
Yeah, and
it's like, at the bottom of the order too. That's fine with me.
So that's a pretty mathematically advanced concept, actually. I mean, it's actually really cool. I mean, it's kind of hard for me to describe what I'm thinking about, but to have those slates just kind of line up like that, because sometimes, when you have so many good, like high upside, high points plays in the outfield, you want to get to those, so you don't want to waste outfield value on those. But when the overpriced guys are in the infield and you have the outfield values, it's an interesting slate. I don't know.
I think that's the way this season has been a lot more. And I think if there's a mistake I've made, I've gone to my stacks too much in the outfield on DraftKings. And if there's one thing I could redo, it would have been stacking teams in the infield. I mean, the Padres are a great example. I mean, between their first baseman and Machado and what's it called? They're all guys who are on pace to, in a real season, hit 50, like almost 50 home runs, or 50 or more home runs for Machado and Tatis, and then you get a bunch from the other guys. There's a lot going on those power stacks. You also get Donaldson back for the Twins now with Sano with the power upside against the horrible Detroit bullpen, and Garver back at catcher possibly. So all of these things make sense to me and I think we should have been doing this more. Also, you can kind of use the value in the outfield together. Like you can use DJ Stewart and Mullins or something. You can get a little correlation even with your cheap outfield if you choose to go that particular route. Same thing with the Royals too.
I would definitely want to do that. I mean, that's
yeah. I mean, it's funny because John asked another question, like if Acuna or Ozuna, like which one would I like more? The answer is always they're not the same price. So Acuna is a whole different price tier than Ozuna. Like you look at who Acuna is up there against, all of a sudden it's like, why am I not playing Mookie or Mike Trout or something? And not to say that you shouldn't play Acuna over those guys. Maybe you should, but you get down to Ozuna's price and it's a whole lot more reasonable. Now, at the same time, I just told you I mostly can only use one guy because I like this outfield value. And if you're going to spend that much up, to me, the way to do it is the outfield value. Now, sometimes you'll get that crazy infield value or whatever. I don't see that happening as much today. But one thing you could do a little different if you did want to spend up more on the outfield is try to pay down as your catcher spot, because that's not something people are going to do that much of. And then all the way down is some of the cheap second basemen that are not named Van Meter or Rojas. Those will be off the board too. All right. I think that was a pretty good coverage thing. So do you want to do some home runs? I
Um,
bet ones than earlier.
sure.
Is there any other stacks that we didn't? I think we talked about a lot of stacks.
We did.
All right, all the way up. I'm going to take the chalky Freddie Freeman.
All right, then I'll take the double chalk. I'll take Springer and JD Martinez.
All right, I like that. I like that. I mean, I love Springer. I'll go to another guy we haven't talked as much about as we usually do, or another two guys, one in the 4K, one in the 3K. Donaldson in the 4K, Buxton in the 3K.
Is Buxton going to get in? Yeah, he's always in now, right?
Yeah, and he'll get the lefty too.
You know what I'm going to throw in? I'm going to throw in one. Just people are going to we're going to forget about it. I'm going to use him a little bit. I'm Corey Seager.
Seager's like my top short. I love it. Okay, you got to go something cheaper next time. Okay, this time I'm going to go real low.
Cheap one, huh? Cheap one, huh?
I'll give you two more cheap ones: Soler and Bodie. That's it for me.
Soler and Bodie. Yeah, so then I guess I'll go. I don't know if this guy's cheap enough, but I'll go Nick Solak.
Yeah, that's good.
And I'll give you one more. There was somebody I was thinking about. Nunez from Baltimore.
Oh, okay. I like that one. Also, guys, we didn't mention him on the show, but I just want to throw out that Brian Reynolds, and I did mention Dickerson, but those are both strong plays as well. Reynolds, another good value in the outfield.
Yep.
All right, Sheets. Anything else? You guys, get any QQs in? We're going to get out of here in like 2 minutes, but get some QQs in before we do leave, and we will answer them, whether they're basketball or baseball related. Sheets, who do you think wins the title this year in the NBA?
Kind of sucks because my big long shot play was Denver earlier, and now I'm predicting them to get swept. So it's Lakers, I guess. I don't know.
All right, I'm not going to answer the question because I've got my Laker fan. But I would say that I think that Miami would have a very good chance of beating them. I think it's a closer series than people might think. But, okay, I think that we're pretty much going to get out of here. I'm just making sure there's nothing else in the chat before we do leave. All right, we'll give you one more. We got the baseball playoffs coming up. Who do you like to win the World Series?
I'm going to go with what I said earlier before we even got on for our first things. My two teams were the White Sox and the Dodgers.
I was Dodgers and Twins, so I guess that we can both help. Well, where are the Twins right now? Let me see, actually. They're right behind. They're a game and a half back, so they're in the spot for the Wild. So I'll stick with the Dodgers and Twins. We're sort of going for the AL. You should have picked the Yankees, though, man. Take your team.
I remember when you said you're not going to take your team. I'm like, I'm just not taking it.
You know what's weird about having teams, though? Like, part of my issue, especially because I love basketball so much, like, I just want to say this because it's sort of been eating at me all playoffs. I haven't been able to enjoy the Laker playoff games that much compared to the other games because I don't love this team. Like, I don't have that same feeling towards this team. I love Anthony Davis. I love that he yelled Kobe. That was the most I ever liked him after the end of the last game. That was incredible stuff. But I just don't feel attached to them in the way. And I also feel like they did everything wrong as a franchise for 5 years and got rewarded by getting LeBron and AD together. And I don't think that's the right way to do things. I'm still rooting for them. I'm still a Laker fan. But it's not my favorite team. To be honest, if you switch their team and put any of the other teams on this Laker team, I would prefer that Laker team over all these other teams.
You talk about this a lot. I responded to Siege's tweets. He always tweets about the Red Sox and the Celtics and the Patriots. He's a big Boston sports fan, and I gotta hand it to him because when you play DFS, it really tends to suck the life out of your fanship of teams in general. You sometimes don't even know what teams' records are. You don't even know what's going on because you're solely focused on your individual plays for the day, and you don't really care how they do in real life. You only care how they do in fantasy. So it's kind of difficult to keep up your love of a team, when you're doing DFS. So props to you and to whoever actually can continue to root for their team. For me, again, Cablevision and the TV people have destroyed it for me over the last 10 years. I mean, because I honestly cannot watch Yankees or Knicks on my television ever.
It's almost impossible for me too, but I will say this though, like but what I was saying was more even a personality thing. Like LeBron is fine as a human being, and I like him as a person. I like Anthony Davis as a person. I'm just saying a connection with the team. Like I feel extremely connected and attached to the Dodgers. Like I feel like I am completely, and I feel like I see them accurately, but I love them in a way that I don't love the Laker team, which is strange for me because the Lakers might win the title this year, and I just have this incredible love for everybody on the Dodgers that I just don't feel the same thing with the Lakers, although I'm still rooting for them. It's just the first time I've ever experienced that with a really good team before. I just don't feel attached to these guys. And I think growing up a Laker fan, like we're not used to having like totally – we had new guys coming in, sure, but the main stars were the same for most of my life. We had Shaq, we had Kobe, then before that we had Magic and Kareem. It was pretty – they were Lakers the whole time I was growing up. So pretty much. I mean, Shaq obviously Orlando and then Miami, but anyway, I just think it's something I've struggled with, and I would like to enjoy the rest of it. I really enjoyed the whole last game, but I enjoyed Denver's comeback. I root for these guys too. I wanted there to be good games, and that's sort of what I've become that old man who's rooting for good games at this point. Anyway, Eric says it's going to be Boston and the Lakers in the finals. What's up to Eric? Just popped in. Hey man, I'll take it. It'd be a nice little throwback thing. I do think that Miami is really scary, but Boston. Look, both these coaches are awesome. I'm interested to see how the adjustments go, and I think we're about to get out of here. So, Sheets, you want to leave the people with anything for tonight that maybe sort of reiterate one of the takes you had, one of the stacks you liked, and something like that?
Yeah, baseball wise. Baseball wise, I'm just gonna go back. I'm gonna go back to it. I'm just gonna go back to Texas. I'm gonna go back to the Cubs and my normal teams like Houston, Boston. I just honestly don't know where the ownership's gonna go. That'll be my last thing. Is I'm gonna check ownership, and if I can get any kind of sense of if any of those are gonna be the lower owned, that's where I'm gonna end up playing the most. That's better.
Yeah, I'm a Braves. I'm coming on to the Padres strong here with the outfield idea. The cheap. I guess that's my biggest take of the day. Spend down on the outfield, but you can still use one of the pay up for one spot, a Springer or something like that. But you can spend on at least two spots in the outfield and do most of what you want pitching and hitting wise on the infield. And there's some really good infields today, and they would be the Padres, Braves, Twins, even Arizona's to some extent, and the Dodgers obviously. So that's sort of what I'm doing. Blake Snell is iffy for me. I prefer Valdez. Is Baltimore chalk? No. But there might be some guys who have some ownership on Baltimore, including those cheap outfielders. But there's a lot of other cheap outfielders like Soler who are much better plays even. So I don't think Baltimore's going to be crazy. All right, I think we got all the questions. I get it, Eric. I like some Baltimore too. I just like some of these other places a little better. But I guess I gave my big one and Chiefs gave his. So I'm going to say for the people at BetQL, the people at QL TV, Eric and myself, good luck to everyone out there tonight, and we'll see you at the top of the leaderboards.